Douglas Hargett is our next Lion legend, a member of the UNA baseball program from 1999 to 2002. He went on to become one of the most decorated student athletes at North Alabama, one of 11 to pull the All-America double-double, an All-American and an academic All-America pick. Gulf South Conference East Division Player of the Year as a senior. He was on North Alabama's 1999 College World Series team. Wrapped up his career holding 5 school records, still holds the school record for doubles in a career. Douglas Hargett, thanks for being our next Lion legend.
You just made me feel old. That seems like it's been ages ago, man. So it's a long time ago, it feels like it.
So we're in the baseball locker room here at the Mike Lane Field. What's it like for you being back in here as we get ready to go back through your career?
Well, I mean, it's cool. I've gotten to be in here some, with over the past couple of seasons, talking to some of the guys and at different times. But it's funny to be back in here because this wasn't here, when I was playing. Didn't have a locker room, so it's cool that these guys have this though now. It's cool for them.
Before we jump into it, let's give UNA fans just an update on your family and where you guys are now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm married to Courtney Horton from Sheffield, but spent some time in Huntsville, but we live in Florence now. 3 kids. Hugh, who is 16, just got his license. So Barkley, who is soon to be 15, and a younger son, Bo, who's 11. But they go to Mars Hill Bible School in Florence.
So let's jump into it. Let's go back to Cherokee High School. My understanding, you played a couple of different sports, baseball being the main one. But what was the athletic experience like for you in high school?
I mean, it was great. Typical, small school. I love Cherokee, everything about it. Everybody knows each other, small, close-knit community. Play a lot of different sports growing up, not as much of the travel ball going all over the place. I mean, you were there in Cherokee playing, but played basketball, baseball, football there. Enjoyed all of it. Had a great experience, great coaches around me, great mentors. I think about baseball from a baseball standpoint. Richard Phillips, who was my baseball coach there. Kenny Aycock was the assistant baseball coach. Just good men who, in combo with my dad, taught me many valuable lessons about having a good work ethic. So was glad to have them as high school coaches.
State runner-up as a sophomore. You played in so many all-star games as a senior. When did you start thinking about baseball being your route to college?
Man, I would tell you that at some point I realized in basketball I probably wasn't tall enough, probably wasn't quick enough and fast enough, and I wasn't going to be able to outwork some of that. And I would say probably about the summer of my sophomore year of high school, just decided that I was going to be all in on baseball, and not just in baseball, but in the weight room, doing stuff in the off season and really putting in the time to do everything that it took to be better, get stronger, get as fast as I could. My dad had actually built a homemade pitching machine that I still have today at my house that we have set up for my kids if they want to hit there. And just got constant reps with that, and that was before you go to a cage. Everybody goes to a cage to go hit. So, but yeah, I would say around my sophomore year, and then from there, it just kind of, you start to see progress start to get better, and it was just progressed from there, man. So.
As a senior, you hit .635, led the state in batting average. For you coming to North Alabama, what was the recruitment like? When did UNA come into the picture?
Man, at that point, being a kid from a small school, there wasn't people knocking down my door to come see me play. And, I had gotten offers from several different junior colleges. I'd gotten a couple of offers to go walk on at some bigger schools. But I remember Coach Aycock, I believe it was, at Cherokee saying, hey, let's, maybe try to talk to UNA or figure out if they're interested. And not long after that, Coach Lane called me, I still remember coming up here for my tryout at the field and going out, took some ground balls from third base, threw them across. That was fine. Got in the cage, hit some balls, Coach Keene was throwing BP at the time, and I would say probably a couple of days, maybe a week after that, Coach Lane made his way down to Cherokee, met my parents, and made me an offer to come play here, which I was ecstatic about, because had the opportunity to play close to home, and for my parents to be able to see me play at the time, grandparents, aunts, uncles, family. I mean, it was just a cool experience, and it made the decision pretty easy at that point.
So you arrive as a freshman from Cherokee High School. Take us back. What was it like the early days when you first got here playing under Coach Lane and Coach Keene?
Man, I will tell you what, I grew up with a dad who really, I mentioned this earlier, but work ethic. It had nothing to do with sports. You know, I can still remember, I've told this story a bunch of times, but I still remember, you know, getting up from an entire summer, putting up a barbed wire fence around our property at Cherokee. And it was just getting up early in the morning, working all day during the day, and then finishing up at night, you know, when it was dark. And at the time, I didn't realize the impact that would have on me in sports, you know, later on. But my dad prepared me to be here at UNA from a work ethic standpoint, because when I got here, it was very clear that, you know, nothing less than your best was going to be accepted by Coach Lane, by Coach Keene. And they worked every day, and man, I loved it. I was already had that mindset anyway, and I loved it, and I think it definitely helped me once I got here. But those two guys really did a good job. Coach Keene still does a good job of really pushing the guys to be their best.
You arrive in '99, guys like Josh Willingham, Cliff Lord, Chris Fears, Wally Whidbey were here. Great team. We'll get to the success you guys had, but you're a freshman. What was it like coming into a team with so many great players like that?
Man, it was a blessing, right? I come in from Cherokee. I step into a team that is ready-made to make a run. You could tell from the time I got here in the fall, just getting ready for practices, that this team is very good. A lot of strong leadership. You mentioned a lot of those guys that were on that team. I think of Christian Gallegos as well, who was catching that year behind the plate. Denny Paganelli, I think, was on that team as well. Jeff Sloan. I mean, I could go down the list of guys, but they were just all very good at baseball. But on top of that, they didn't mind putting in the work, and they were strong leaders. You know, they didn't let you get away with stuff. They didn't let other guys on the team get away with stuff that they shouldn't be doing, and it made us better for it. But man, I was blessed, and about that year you kind of get the idea that we're going to be great every year. This is how it works. But looking back now, you see what a blessing that was to be around so many good guys, good ball players.
From a local standpoint, Josh Willingham and Matt Henry were both Morris Hill guys. You were a Cherokee guy. Sort of that local feel, you know, what was it like having so many local guys on such a successful team in the Shoals area?
No, I mean, it was cool because, you know, Coach Lane had really recruited outside of the area. Not being from here, he'd kind of pulled from some different places. And so there was always a good mix of guys from the Midwest here or even further out west that came into play every year that he recruited that were on the team. You mix that in with some local guys, myself, Josh Willingham, Matt Henry, both Morris Hill guys, but Matt, a fifth-year senior, and I'm coming in as a freshman, was really a good leader on that team and was somebody who kind of, you could look at him as an example of what it took to be able to succeed from the standpoint of continuing to work to get better every year. I ended up starting second base, you know, as a fifth-year senior for us on that World Series team. And then Josh, obviously, just a phenomenal. Everybody knows his story, but it's he was good to me when I got here. I still remember kind of took me under his wing when I first got here and made sure that I fit in and knew everything was going to be good here at UNA.
42 games started as a freshman, I believe, all at third base. Did you expect to come in and crack the lineup like that?
I mean, honestly, yeah, I did. I don't mean that from a standpoint of I knew I was going to have to work hard once I got here, but from the standpoint in my mind, I was still, the kid who had success at Cherokee, and I was just expected to come in and be able to do it again, and nobody told me any different. So maybe I was just too naive to think it was going to be that easy. But don't get me wrong, there were guys around me who were pushing me every day of practice in combination with the coaches. I think of guys like Danny Martinez who were on that team, Alain Grijalva. We, sort of all were there working on the infield every day, third, first, wherever it was, and those were some good guys to be around, to be pushed. But yeah, I mean, I had confidence in myself and what I could do. I think anybody who comes to play college sport of any kind does, and if you're going to be here, you want to play. And so I think that everyday competition was good for everybody on the team, made us better.
Before we jump into the postseason run, your first year of playing college baseball, any memories that have stuck with you?
Oh man, you said you're going to get into the postseason run. I mean, I would just tell you that. I mean, when I think back on all that stuff now, I can go through some at-bats. I can go through some plays that were made. Not all of them. There's some guys who are a lot better. Brock Beck still amazes me at some of the plays and stuff he can go through and stories he can tell, and he's got some good ones. But for me, man, I go back to some of those times in the locker room or at practice, relationships that were built that I still talk to those guys, still email with those guys, text with those guys over the years, of where you just made that connection, and it's part of that journey, that process of getting to the point of having success, man. But yeah, I look at more of that stuff maybe, Ben, than maybe some of the games and at bats.
So let's jump into the postseason run, and it starts in the Gulf South Conference Tournament. A couple of early close ball games, wins over Southern Arkansas 8-7. You beat UAH 9-7. Then you beat Delta State 12-3 before falling to Delta again 5-2. Sets up a winner-take-all championship game, a ball game you guys win 10-7. Take us back to winning it. Anything that stands out?
Man, I mean, I'll just tell you, being here at the field, I mean, football stadiums, you're used to people packing stadiums, right? You just kind of see it on Saturdays. You can go to Brawley and see that at UNA. I mean, people flock to football games, tailgating, et cetera. A regular season baseball game, I look at the field, there's not a ton of fans that were here at that time as well. So it rolls around time for the GSC tournament, and man, it's packed. I mean, there were people standing around the fences all the way around the field. The stands were packed. It was loud. Jeff Hodges is up in the press box playing great music. I mean, just pumping everybody up. Yeah, but that GSC tournament was awesome. There were great teams all the way around. I think of guys like Blake Bone, who played at UAH, D. Haynes, who was at Delta State, Eli Whiteside, who was a freshman at Delta State, same year I was there. But just a lot of guys, a lot of talent all the way around, and everybody by that time of the year was good. I mean, it was really good. So it was just a fun experience, and to be able to come out of that, a winner, was just a huge blessing for all of us.
So you guys win the Gulf South Conference Championship, and next thing you know, you're hosting the NCAA tournament right here in Florence. Right. What was the feeling as a freshman thinking, oh, wow, we're going to experience this on our home field? No,
it was great. I don't know that we were even expecting that. We were playing the GSC tournament, got to host that, and that was awesome. And then you turn right back around and you're hosting it, again. Some of the I believe Delta State may have still been in that, if I'm not mistaken. I may be wrong about that. But it was a phenomenal experience. I still remember we thought it was pretty cool because I think we all thought we were going to get to travel off somewhere and go play. And Coach put us up in the Ramada Inn Hotel over in Sheffield, just to, I think, get us away, maybe get us away from some of the stuff we may have been doing on college campuses, maybe staying out too late or whatever the case may be. But I remember going and staying in the Ramada Hotel and driving over to the baseball field and thinking, this is kind of weird. We're home and we're staying in a hotel. But it was cool. Great experience.
So you guys beat UAH in the first game 7-4, and then you beat Southeast Oklahoma State 3-0, 4-2. What do you remember about the feeling when you guys clinched and punched your ticket to the World Series?
Phenomenal. I mean, we knew at that time, we talked about it a little bit, no team at UNA had ever made it, that far to be able to go to the World Series. And there have been so many great teams that have been here, so much success Coach Lane, Coach Keenan had over those years. And, I have memories of hits and different things that were done, but the main memory I carry away from that, I remember the last out of the regional ground ball hit to third base. And it's funny because there's certain plays you can still remember, actually fielding and throwing. And I can still remember fielding that ground ball and wanting to get rid of it and just let it go as quick as I could. And I remember hitting Steve Cosa right in his glove at first base. And man, just going crazy immediately and dog pile. Everybody's excited. But yeah, just a great memory I'll carry with me forever.
North Alabama had made it to the NCAA tournament 9 times prior. This was the 10th. That was the first time you guys had punched the ticket to the College World Series. So you travel down to Montgomery, Alabama to play in the College World Series. Again, you probably thought you were going to go somewhere far. You're going down to Montgomery. What was the feeling surrounding that, the level of excitement?
Yeah, just going down to Patterson Field. A lot of the state championship baseball game and high school stuff is still played there. But yeah, it was a great experience. Just all of the hosts down there, I remember being so kind to us, hosting meals for us, obviously putting us up in a hotel, and the atmosphere. Just teams from all over the country coming in, from California, West Virginia, Kansas City. I remember from all over the place. And you knew when you got down there and you play that first game that it's going to be some good baseball, and you better be playing your best.
First game, a win over West Virginia State 15-9, then losses to Kennesaw State 10-3. Final game eliminated against Rockhurst 4-3. As you look back at those 3 ball games and the experience, is there anything that stands out?
I would just say the overall experience was one that was phenomenal. I mean, we played some very good competition. We were down there. We played better baseball probably, when we were in the GSC tournament and the regional. But, just the support we got from the community, from the UNA community, from the Florence community itself was phenomenal, and a lifetime worth of memories over the course of that season.
You guys got a taste of the NCAA tournament your freshman year. You got a lot coming back for the 2000 season. Heading into that year, what was the feeling amongst the team about getting back to the NCAA?
I think everybody that came back that was a returner saw no reason we weren't going to go right back to where we were the year before, back to the World Series. Josh Willingham was moving into his, junior year it would have been then. And he had just had a phenomenal season the year before. Chris Fears similarly had a great year. He was returning as well. Other guys, I think we added Michael Searcy, if I'm not mistaken, that year, and some other guys that were just phenomenal players that fill some gaps when other guys had left. Matt Greenwood, I think, was on that team as well, and he had, I believe, set the saves record the year before when we went to the World Series. He was back. So I think all of us had a mindset that we would be right back in the World Series again, and made a long run the next year in 2000 to go a long way. Didn't quite, punch our ticket to the World Series, but had a very good season.
You hit .337 in your sophomore campaign, and let's go back to the Gulf South Conference tournament. I want to see some of the things you remember. First off, you guys beat Delta in the opening round. Delta was hosting. Then you drop one to Montevallo to slide down into the losers bracket. A 10-6 win over UAH, and that sets up a game. I think it'll be a memorable game that I want to ask you about. Final score: North Alabama 23. Montevallo 19. And the way I understand it, there's a couple of different 10-run leads blown in that ball game. Take us back. Do you remember much from that high-scoring affair?
The main thing I remember from that is Montevallo pitched a guy who he felt like he was throwing 50 miles an hour, Ben. I mean, it was just lobbing it up there. And they were pounding the ball on us, had a couple of really strong hitters, and it was almost like home run derby in that game. It was a matter of who was just going to continue to drive balls out of the park, and luckily it's just one of those that we hit a few more balls toward the end of the game than they did. But you're right, it was back and forth, and it wasn't like a 1-run, 2-run game. It was like 5, 6, 7, 8-run swings at a time. But yeah, that was a fun game to be a part of.
Set up a winner-take-all championship game against Delta State. Delta State would win it, but 2 years in a row playing in the conference championship game from Cherokee. Did you envision that when you came to UNA?
Man, I probably didn't know exactly what to expect, but I think we all expected to have success here, man. I'll tell you. It didn't take long in the fall of 1998 when I got here before we ever sniffed the World Series to know that we were going to be good. Just with the team that was here, the chemistry that was here, and the quality of guys and the work ethic of the guys on that team.
So I want to step away from baseball from one moment. You were a 3-time Academic All-America pick, the first pick coming after your sophomore year. And you look to Josh Willingham, Academic All-America as well. Also Steve Kosa, who played with you your first year. So 3 guys from one era making Academic All-America. What was the academic mindset for the team at that time?
I would tell you that we always had to get up every morning, right, and go check the board that was out front of Coach Lane's office. But on that board, there was any number of things. You'd have your practice outline, what time you had to be where, what color practice jerseys we were going to wear for the day, what exactly we were going to be doing, what groups you were going to be in, just very regimented, organized, so everybody knew what was going on. But part of that process also was study hall. Who has study hall today? What hours do you have that? And I knew coming here, and I give credit to my mom, for this side of it, because, at some point, athletics are going to end at some point. Whether or not that ends in high school, college, or one day after a 10-year pro career, they end. And from my standpoint, it was always a strong focus on academics from the time I was little. And when I got to college, it just became that much more serious for me. I was going to do everything I could to, I treated the classroom like a sport. I wanted to beat everybody in the class as far as grades was concerned. It's just a mindset I carried in there. And some classes I did that, and some I didn't. A lot of smart people. So.
We've mentioned Josh Willingham's name quite a bit. After that second year that you were here in 2000, he was drafted. And what was it like for you to see a teammate get drafted and then begin that major league journey?
Man, just phenomenal, and so proud for him. I mean, I mentioned before, a phenomenal sophomore year when we went to the World Series. I mean, I believe he almost hit 500 that season, and it wasn't like a soft 500 where he'd got a lot of dinkers along the way. It was just missiles all over the field. But to get to see him be drafted and the collection of other guys that would go on to play some type of pro baseball as well, whether or not it's in the minor leagues or independent baseball or whatever the case may be, I think in large part was a result of that whole collection of guys being together, playing together, seeing the success of each other, and Josh being a part of that as well.
Your big breakout year really came as a junior. You hit .445, 9 home runs, 54 runs driven in. First team All-Gulf South Conference selection, all-region pick as well. I want to start with some of those awards, but being an all-conference pick finally as a junior, being recognized for your play on the field, I mean, how rewarding was that? No,
it was pretty cool. Like I said, I was working hard in the classroom. I can still remember Theron Anderson, who was our catcher, a Louisiana guy. Still good. Keep up with him on Facebook, talk to him occasionally, but I still remember him coming in after the season. He said, Douglas, you might be an All-American this year. I said, man, there ain't, no way or whatever. And he said, no, I'm serious. You hit .445. And I was like, I really hadn't thought about that from that standpoint. And I remember him saying that, and I was like, man, maybe he's right. And I didn't end up making All-American that year, but I remember thinking, it kind of planted the seed. Probably that conversation that Theron didn't think anything about is like, man, I need to do better even next year, to push myself even further along. But yeah, it was pretty cool to get recognized on the field. Anytime you put in work to anything, it's always good for people to recognize it.
The awards were just beginning with the on the field, off the field. Let's go through this. You also won the Gulf South Conference Commissioners Cup Award, the NCAA Division II Conference Commissioners Association Male Scholar Athlete of the Year, the UNA Male Student Athlete of the Year as well. As a junior, you would repeat and win all of those. Again, as a senior, one of two, I think, all-time to win the Gulf South Conference Commissioner Awards twice. The only male to be Student Athlete of the Year at UNA 2 years in a row. Looking back now, I mean, you had a lot of great accomplishments on the field, but those off-the-field recognition, those awards now, how proud are you of those?
What's funny, Ben, is at the time, you're not thinking about any of that stuff. You're just thinking about putting in the work, doing the very best you can, and those results, those awards, those recognitions will take care of themselves on the back end if you're successful enough. And I'll tell you this, and I mean this wholeheartedly, is Jeff Hodges is one of the best at his job that I've been around from the standpoint of making sure that if somebody was succeeding in any sport, baseball, football, but go down the line, basketball, that he was going to make sure that you were noticed and recognized at UNA, but also outside of UNA as well. And UNA's been blessed to have him for years in that capacity, making sure athletes are taken care of.
I want to jump into your senior season now, your final go at it, and you're named Gulf South Conference East Division Player of the Year after hitting .411. You also broke school records for most at-bats, hits, doubles, total bases, and most games played. Your senior year, chasing all of those records, how memorable was it?
Man, it was just pretty cool. I remember Jeff Hodges saying before the season, hey, there's a couple records you're getting really close on. I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, we went through doubles and a couple of other ones. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Maybe the most cool experience of all those, though, was I believe it was 15 straight games or something like that. I was on base or something like that, which you don't even think about at the time. You're just hitting or whatever. But I still remember that, and after a while, I remember going down to first base, and I think Coach Keene had said something like, "You realize you've been on base about the past 3 or 4 games. You've been on base every time." I was like, "Hey, you hadn't even really noticed it." But it was that was pretty cool as well. And that was against Montevallo. It was like that whole series and continuing a little bit after that, my senior year. So that was pretty cool as well.
So you jumped the gun on me. I was going to bring that up to you. 15 consecutive plate appearances, still a Division II record for the NCAA. 8 hits, 6 walks. You were hit by a pitch 1 time. Take us back a little more detail. Is there anything else that you remember? How memorable was it?
I mean, it's just one of those times when you get hot. I mean, any athlete will tell you that. Sometimes you just kind of get in the zone, and the baseball looks like a beach ball coming up to the plate. And that was about a 2 week, week and a half, 2 week period that I had in that Montevallo series, where it seems like I couldn't miss the ball, and when I wasn't getting a hit, I was getting walked. And a lot of that's also guys hitting in front of you and behind you that kind of set stuff up for you and make your life a whole lot easier. John Tariski was hitting behind me that year. He's a coach at Red Bay now here locally, but he was phenomenal. I look at guys like Vito Redmond and Nick Mockabee and other guys who were in that lineup as well, but Jeff Cochran. But they're just all good guys that were around you in the lineup that make things easier.
So your senior year comes to a close. You guys return to the Gulf South Conference tournament, and at the end of the year, you pick up your third academic All-America selection, and then you add the double-double, one of 11 student athletes all-time at UNA to do this. You're named All-American for your play on the field. Coming from Cherokee, Alabama, all the success you have at UNA, people dream of being an All-American. How was it to cap your career off being named All-American?
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned a couple of different awards and stuff. Particularly the work in the classroom, having good grades and stuff like that. Some of those awards, not that I expected them, but you knew kind of where your grades kind of fell. I never expected to be an All-American on the baseball field. That was probably one of the biggest surprises for me, and it was. I still remember. I believe it was Coach Lane, Coach Keene, just called me in the office and told me, you got All-American, and what just my mindset. You kind of start going back in your mind to. Back to Cherokee and back to that World Series year and the work that you put in, the guys you've played with over the year that's made the experience what it was, and it was just a pretty cool honor to receive to kind of cap off at least the on the field stuff while I was at UNA.
You graduate from North Alabama with a double degree in biology and political science. You really balanced it academically and athletically. We've touched on that. You took home the Turris Fidelis Award at graduation, graduated magna cum laude. So you got to make a decision. Biology, political science, what made you go the lawyer route?
Well, my dad, mom and dad, but really my dad was out. I think he wanted me to go to med school. I don't think. He wanted me to go to med school. And I wanted to go to law and politics at the time, and so it was kind of a compromise. It's not like I went and I'm going to get a double major in biology and political science. I mean, the reason I did that is because I just kind of leave the door open to say, Dad, I'm going to leave this open. I may go back and go to med school, or at least try to get into med school at some point once this is all done. But by the time my senior year rolled around, I was already applying to some law schools and had gotten accepted. So I was ready to move on at that point and go into law school. But that's, I'll blame the double degree on my dad.
It's very impressive. Next up, the University of Mississippi School of Law. A lot of success there. You graduate, begin your law career. What have been some of the highlights and high points?
Man, it's been cool. I had the opportunity to go work with a huge law firm in Huntsville, based in Alabama. Main office in Birmingham. I practiced there for about 5 years and was just ready to come home, be back around our family. We had kids at that point. They were getting a little bit older, getting about school age, and wanted them to spend as much time around their grandparents as they could growing up. So we moved back here. It's been, 10, 11 years ago now. And I've been fortunate enough to practice with the same two lawyers for those 10 years, Rick Hall and Mike Tanner, great guys who've taught me a ton. Been great guys to practice with, and just been fortunate enough to be here in Florence in a small, awesome, which we all know, awesome community that it is, and it's been a blessing.
2013, you were elected into the UNA Athletic Hall of Fame. Some would call it the greatest Hall of Fame class ever. Yourself, Josh Willingham, Ricky Johnson, Jeff Hodges, a couple of others as well. Going into the Hall of Fame with a teammate, Josh Willingham, take us back to the experience.
No, that was cool, and I'm glad that it worked out that way where I got to be inducted with him. I had some great experiences with him. We roomed together on road trips as well while he was here, so that was cool. And Jeff Hodges, you mentioned in that class as well. You know what I think of him from talking about him before. But yeah, just a cool experience, and a huge blessing to be a part of that class. So.
You've been inducted into the UNA Hall of Fame, the Colbert County Athletic Hall of Fame as well. Now, having kids, what's it like sharing those experiences with them? Yeah,
they've gotten to be at those different ceremonies or whatever over the course of the years. And I remember getting inducted into, that Culver County Hall of Fame. I believe Michael Daniels and Willie Brown, 2 Cherokee guys, were inducted the same time I was into that, which was really cool as well. Phenomenal athletes that I'd looked up to at the time. And, you mentioned the guys who were in the UNA Hall of Fame, and then with the GSC Hall of Fame that was on down the line. I got inducted with some guys who I played with or had a chance to see on the field. Didn't know them, but had a chance to play against them. But I think that's been I've been able to thank people along the way that have done so much for me over the course of my life. But the other part of it is for my kids to be able to kind of see the culmination of what it takes to be successful. Take the sports side out of it. If you want to be good at anything, just getting to see what these different individuals who were good at whatever the sport it was that they were playing had to do to get to this point, and hopefully inspire them to move along as well.
We talked about your athletic career, your law career. We got to jump into your broadcasting career now. You've done some work with us, doing some ESPN broadcasting. Man. You're on the Mars Hill broadcast crew as well for football. You've broadcasted 3 state championships, 2 wins in the state championship game. Have you enjoyed shifting from the playing field into the broadcast booth? Man,
it's been fun. And Ben, I appreciate you asking me a couple of years to come help with some baseball broadcasts, because you called me up, you're like, hey, you want to help me with some baseball broadcasts this year? We're going to do some ESPN stuff. I was like, Ben, I've never done that before. I'll be happy to do it. But dude, I'm not just saying this because you're here. Like, you're great at what you do. One of the most prepared people I've ever been around, and hardest workers I've ever been around, from the standpoint of getting everything ready. And I remember stepping into that first broadcast with you and thinking, man, I'm going to have to step up my game if I'm going to be in here with Ben and Ray. So, man, it's been fun. We've had times cutting up. Brian Neese has been up there some as well, some other folks. But it's been a great experience doing that. The Mars Hill stuff's been fun. I get to do that with some of my good friends. Rodney Bowerman, Josh Bowling does it with us as well. And we've just had a fun, it's just fun, getting to be on the other side of it. I'm not down there on the field doing anything, but it's fun to get to, brag on those guys that are on the field, and hopefully give the folks at home, an idea of what's going on.
So we'll wrap it up with this. It's been great reliving your career, everything you've accomplished. The University of North Alabama, what does it mean to Douglas Hargett?
Man, I'll tell you, I will be indebted to the university itself for the different opportunities it gave me, obviously for the education it gave me, and just the school as a whole. The different teachers that are at the school. I think of people like Laura Harden, who is a speech teacher, Dr. Collins in the political science department. Great teachers that are there, not just them, but others as well. And I say that from the standpoint it's a great school as a whole. But obviously there'll always be a special place in my heart for baseball and for the different doors it opened for me as well. And for Coach Lane and Coach Keene for giving me an opportunity to play here, and my parents for pushing me, and just being able to make the most of it once I got here. So yeah, UNA has been a blessing to me, and I'll owe it a debt I'll never be able to repay.
Douglas Hargett, thank you for being our Lion legend.
Thank you for having me, man. Thanks, Ben.